Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dig into a really common problem in the world of data. How do you go from just a spreadsheet packed with numbers to an actual insight that can change a business? To see how this really works, let's jump into the story of a company facing this exact problem. Right, because here's the thing. Being a data analyst isn't just about getting the numbers right, it's about making them useful. Useful to a product manager who's on a tight deadline or an executive who literally has 30 seconds between meetings. And to see what this looks like in practice, we're going to follow the story of a fictional food delivery app. We'll call it Hungry Now.
All right, so let's set the scene at Hungry Now. And things are not great. They're basically drowning in data, but they have zero real answers. I mean, the problems are staring them right in the face. Deliveries are late, customers are bailing on their orders right before they pay, and to make it worse, people are barely using the app during the dinner rush. And that data they're drowning in is just a confusing mess that's not helping anyone figure out why any of this is happening. So yeah, the stakes are pretty high. So how do you even start to fix this? Well, the first step, and this might surprise you, isn't to look at the data. It's to look at the people who need to use it. This is our first key to making data actually useful. We call this user experience, or UX for short. And when it comes to data, it's all about designing your dashboards to fit the actual person who's going to be looking at it. What are their goals? How much time do they really have? And honestly, how comfortable are they with all the techie jargon? And this is so important because everyone needs something totally different. The product team, they're obsessed with the step-by-step user journey. Customer success, on the other hand, they just need to see where complaints are blowing up. And the execs? Look, they've got 30 seconds. They just need the top 3 to 5 numbers, like now. If you try to build one dashboard for all of them, it's going to be a cluttered mess that helps absolutely no one. Okay, so that's the first key. Know your user. But that's only half the battle. There's a second piece to this puzzle, and it's just as critical. You have to know the business itself, inside and out. This is what we call domain context. For Hungry Now, that means you have to understand the messy, real-world chaos of getting food from a restaurant to someone's front door. It's the bridge, right? The bridge between the numbers on a screen and what's actually happening out there on the street. Take this, for example. In food delivery, not all hours are the same, not even close. The dinner rush, say between 6 and 9 p.m., that's a completely different animal. If you don't analyze that period on its own, you're going to miss the whole story. Or how about this? A 40% jump in late deliveries whenever it rains. Now, if you don't have that little piece of context, what are you going to do? You're probably going to blame the drivers or the restaurants. But with that context, you realize, oh, it's an external factor, and you can start plan for it instead of just reacting. So you have to start asking these real-world questions. Do we have enough drivers in certain neighborhoods? How long does that one super popular restaurant actually take to cook their food? What's the traffic like? Are people on their phones more likely to just give up and close the app? This is the kind of context that turns a boring number into a genuine insight. All right, so what happens when you finally put these two keys together? You've got a deep understanding of the user and a deep understanding of the business. Well, Hungry Now took these ideas and built something that was actually useful. And you know what? One of the biggest changes was also the simplest, the language. They got rid of all the tech jargon. Instead of seeing something like nulls, it just said missing information. Instead of funnel step 4 drop-off, it said people who left at payment. It's a small change, but it's huge because it made the data understandable for everyone, not just the data nerds. The new dashboard basically followed 3 simple rules. First, put the most important numbers right up top. No hunting around. Second, give each team their own tab. One for the X, one for product, and so on. That way, nobody gets overwhelmed. And third, use simple colors like green, amber, red to signal what's good and what's bad at a single glance. And look, this wasn't just about making it look nice. This was a real strategy. They used classic UX principles, things like hierarchy and what's called progressive disclosure, which just means you only show details when someone asks for them. The whole point was to reduce the brainpower it took just to figure out what you were looking at. Okay, so the big question, did any of this actually work? I mean, a pretty dashboard is one thing, but results are what really matters. So let's look at the impact this had back at Hungry Now. And the impact was, well, immediate. For the customer success team, they could suddenly see exactly where problems were popping up, almost in real time. The result?
They ended up spending 22% less time dealing with angry customers. That is a massive win for the team and for the customers.
And it was the same story for the execs. That new custom view gave them everything they needed instantly. This meant the data team wasn't spending hours and hours building slide decks anymore. They cut their report prep time by almost half. That freed up analysts to go find the next big problem.
But here's the most important part. The dashboard stopped just reporting numbers and started revealing the reason behind them. It made it crystal clear that there was a driver shortage in North London during the dinner rush, and it showed them exactly where in the mobile app people were getting frustrated and quitting. These are the kinds of insights you can actually do something about.
And that's really the whole point, isn't it? The goal is to make good data feel obvious. When you bring together that deep understanding of your user with the real-world context of the business, you create something that just makes sense. The message is clear, and what to do next is right there in front of you. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. The next time you're staring at a confusing dashboard, just ask yourself, what if the biggest problem here isn't the data at all? What if it's that it was never designed for a real person in the real world to begin with? Thanks for watching.